At 5 a.m., we broke into Neutychine, we four, a photographer, a writer, and 2 drivers. Our intended destination was Silane, Slovakia. We were to report to an infantry division. At noon we arrive. Propaganda company. A meaningful, aha, high time that you've come. The IC gives us our task succinctly. Many important events are occurring for us to observe. The commander of Infantry Regiment 62 has left for Kadka. Stand by, we were commanded. A few minutes later, we're behind the car of Major General Lang, deceased, roaring along the Bergstrasse in the direction of the Jablunka Pass. An apparently breathless start, perhaps a sign of what was to come. 4:45 a.m. The attack begins. The secret had been shared with us, and we used the remaining hours for our preparation. A gunnery officer drives us to the border, where we can see the Jablunka Pass. With cat-like tread, crouching, we sneak past bushes and stones so as not to alert the enemy. In a few hours, Poland will be a powder keg. With a splintering crash, something will fall to pieces that never should have existed. The predatory state Poland stole this territory from Slovakia in 1938. The flat, saddle-like Jablunka that lies before us in the summer afternoon. In summer 1937 we stood at Lauenburg, astounded by the disgraceful border, the Polish corridor. Sadness over German sorrow had no place. Indignation glowed within us. We felt, as now, that this nurtured flame had intensified. We didn't need to extinguish it. We were no longer forced to swallow our bitterness, as we had during the decade and a half since the Versailles humiliation. The fire of vengeance burned. We had arrived at a singular historic hour. We could change our century's destiny with our deeds. No grenadier in our forces could stand on this border unmoved. If anyone's blood did not rush and his heart did not beat faster, he had lived, unworthy and numb, through a powerful era. Our Führer keenly understood. With his wise words, he tried generously to nurture an understanding between two peoples, did he not? But he discovered beyond the border a huge, sneering throng that thought of destroying Germany up to the gates of Berlin, with no feeling of neighbourliness. Tartar state Poland, wrote Clausewitz. His century-old judgment of the Polish statesmen could now be rewritten. They were too much the Tartar. Their happy lives and unlimited frivolity, hand in hand, would bring them tumbling down. The time was nigh. Now, German sword, you are guardian of our rights and avenger of our 1,000-fold sullied honour. Kadka, the 1st of September, 2:45 a.m. The night is agitated. No, our hearts are agitated. We study our maps in the blinding light of flashlights. At midnight we listen to the regimental commander discuss the battle plan. On a border mountain, the regimental staff will establish its headquarters. From there it will lead the attack on the Jablunka Pass. At 3 a.m., we finally get to sleep. We sleep with one eye open. Poland is still not lost. True, but after 5 a.m., the situation will be different. After 2 hours of border combat, the Reich battle flag waves over the Jablunka Pass. Enemy demolition commandos destroy the tunnels. Polak, go home. Rejoice the Slovaks. Young soldiers surmount old Austrian fortifications. Slovakian girls crown our stormtroops. The sexton of Mosny calls out a pious alarm. At the Jablunka Pass, the 1st of September, 10 a.m. the Jablunka Pass, the best-known path through the western Carpathian Mountains, has been in German hands since 6:15 a.m. A 400-metre-long tunnel, the shortest road between Warsaw and Vienna, traverses the heights of the pass. Our forces powerfully secure the tunnel. We quickly clear the enemy from the nearest station, Mosti. The retreating enemy sets off thundering detonations in the pass. We raise the Reich battle flag on the heights of the pass at 6:30 a.m. The enemy's explosives have rendered the 2 tunnels of the international 2-track stretch impassable. At 7:30 a.m. we saw, at a distance of 8 kilometres, a tall column of smoke rising from the valley, accompanied by a deafening din, close to Sanatorium Jablunkau. We cannot confirm what has fallen victim to the Polish lust to destroy. Major General Lang, deceased, leads infantry from Lower Bavaria in a concentrated attack on the pass. The enemy defends reluctantly with a single battalion. Skillfully using the cover provided by the descending, lightly forested terrain, The company approaches within 100 meters of the tunnel entrance before a firefight begins. They quickly capture the toll booth. At 5:30 a.m., our machine guns come into action, throwing our opponents back into the forest. At 5:45 a.m., the clamour of battle increases. Our infantry cannons and mortars are firing. We rapidly overcome enemy resistance at the tunnel entrance. Immediately we hear dull detonations, indicating we cannot hinder destruction of the tunnel. We pass through the Slovakian village uprivery to Hill 605. Good-naturedly laughing, the villagers receive us in front of their wooden houses and greet us with raised hands. "Send the Polacks home." They cry out joyously. "Is that the Polish border, Herr Lieutenant?" asks a rifleman. "It was the Polish border," is the answer. The farmers feel elation. They return to their work filled with the spirit of the lucky hour. They know the shield of the Reich protects them. No willfulness, no Polak economics shall return any time soon. They express their hatred for Poland with balled fists. They remove traces of the short Polish rule of the Jablonka Pass with their hands. They tear down the guardhouses and toll booths. Wild fun for the Slovakian boys, who are unshaken by the proximity of gunfire. We have as yet no wounded. The Poles, in contrast, have left behind a few of their dead at the tunnel entrance. We are on Hill 605. Maps call this point Sants, which means fieldwork, the old Austrian fortifications, ruins overgrown with grass. At the moment they provide cover for our infantrymen. The ancient casemates live on, shocked from a century of sleep by a day of war rumbling like thunder. During World War I, the Carpathian soldiers were here, but there was no fighting. Now the new German men storm through, along with World War I veterans. A divine glow fills them all. "My God," we hear from a veteran. First Lieutenant Streil, deceased, cries, gazing at impetuous men pressing forward. "My God, the heart of an old front soldier rejoices." During a proper mountain war, our boys have shown what spirit moves them. They undergo their baptism of fire. The exuberant laughter of the liberated Slovaks is their thanks and spurs them on. "We have waited so long for you," the Slovaks tell our interpreter. "We are standing over the tunnel. The leading edge of the company is fighting in Mosty. The force of an explosion has burst the asphalt road leading over the tunnel. We get a fleeting glimpse into the gorge of the tunnel exit, from which smoke streams. The bricks of the walls have collapsed. Rubble completely litters the tunnel. The Poles ripped up 50 meters of track. The street is strewn with iron-covered tree stumps. We look toward Mosty. The inhabitants are in the streets with swastika banners. The Slovakian girls adorn our bold Bavarian infantrymen with early autumn flowers. The first Polish prisoners are led away. They pull egg-shaped hand grenades from their pockets and throw their rifle ammunition in the grass. These gestures are far more modest than those of Herr Prokal not long ago. He threatened to crush us. And who is coming toward us? The sexton of Mosty, a Pole. He had arrived to ring the bells as our infantry entered the town, a pious signal to enemy artillery. "No, no, sexton and assorted dark types, this day belongs to us. September 1st, 1870, Day of Sedan. A day we take for a good omen, a day of victory, once and today. We have a bit of schnapps to bind our steel helmets more tightly. Preparing to attack nocturnal invasion of our temporary quarters in Konyakov, the journalist and writer soldier. Where is the enemy? A happy goose capture in the early morning. Kasperli, the 2nd of September, 6 a.m. 2 restless nights and a day of tension lay behind us. Only a few hours' rest separate one soldierly workday from the next. The force of events alone that drives us forward prevents fatigue from overwhelming us. We sleep here and there, a half hour during short quiet periods, wherever we lie or sit, in a motorcycle sidecar, on an artillery truck, or on the bare earth. This must suffice and does suffice in the hours of ceaseless advance. The war reporter doesn't have his typewriter somewhere behind in a warm nest, a press headquarters. He forms his reports from the accounts of others, the events as they happened. At other times he wants to be at the front, where life is hard. His trade belongs to the lifestyle of the new Germany. The man of the pen, entrusted with his weapon, moves forward shoulder to shoulder with the infantry on the battlefield. His soldierly and writerly assignments flow together as a book. The pen becomes brother to the rifle. The German reporter-soldier, we hope, demolishes the barrier between the journalist with his glittering words and the soldier. By doing so, he can write exceptionally historic accounts. He tries to overcome his tough prejudice against leaving his warm nest, once part of his occupation. He succeeds, as he has in other fights. The reporter-soldier is not so much different from what he was during the battle years of the Nazi movement. We want to describe what we experience, not much more. We don't put much stock in second- and third-hand accounts. We wish to steer clear of pathos that pale orchids can sow in cloistered room air, sheltered from the storms of time. In war, everything is simple, but the simplest is the most difficult, said Clausewitz. Perhaps this aphorism can be applied to the use of words. We don't know. War is a serious godfather who has stepped up to the cradle of words. Of all writings, I love only those that are written in blood, said Nietzsche. As battling Nazis, we have eagerly taken up Nietzsche's legacy. We are his worthy followers, who have written his story with blood and iron. He won't find slackers in New Era Germany. We have absorbed his glowing philosophy from the depths of time. We are reporters who lay our lives on the line. We have stopped at an impoverished Polish farmhouse. A few woodblocks serve as a writing desk. Outside, we hear the clamour of field and supply trains, the neighing of horses, the rattling of motors. Morning fog covers the low hills and western Beskids, mountains. Passing troops and supply wagons emerge in silhouette from the silver-grey mist. The words of commandos fly back and forth across the parking lots. What a jump we must make, from experience to contemplation. What our infantry was forced to accomplish yesterday. They were not really outfitted for mountain war, but confronted with problems, they came up with solutions. Most difficult was the truck movement up through the difficult terrain, from Jaworzina through Stock, Stein and Mulder. The march into Istebna was exhausting. A few machine gun nests were rooted out. At 4 p.m., we arrived at the mountain town of Plaszazita at Koniakov. The Poles had abruptly abandoned Koniakov itself. We stayed in town for the night. The field kitchens didn't arrive. They had halted somewhere else. We had to subsist on our iron rations. During the night, our machine gun company was at work in front. They had just arrived in Koniakov when trouble broke out. Our men got through. They have wonderful fighting spirit. Our 9 wounded bear witness to the difficulties of the mission. What a wild night we had. We had honestly earned the right to a few hours' sleep. We found accommodation in the stable of an inn from which Polish troops had been firing on us a few hours earlier. The innkeeper ignored us at first, but then sold us some stale beer. We were powerfully thirsty after our day's march. We can sleep, so we are ready at daybreak. In the twilight we lay on straw. Suddenly wild shooting broke out nearby. Alarm, alarm. We jumped up, rifles at the ready. Were partisans attacking. We had to watch out constantly for them. The company had already moved forward in the bright moonlight shining down mildly, dreamily. In an hour our men had secured the area. We had 2 precious hours of peace left in temporary quarters at Koniakov. At 5 a.m., Infantry Regiment 19 marches down the highway from Koniakov to Saybush. A deep silence accompanies our march. No artillery fire disturbs us. Where is the enemy? The villages are abandoned. Frightful reports of fierce German troops have quickly driven people from their homes. Neglected farm animals are left behind. Praise God, something for us. Soldiers grab chickens and geese, though the field kitchen is far behind. Men are running this way and that, and the place sounds like a live market with honking of geese, squealing of pigs, yowling, shaking laughter, when a chicken hunter jumps on his prey in the dewy grass without the sound of a hunting horn. According to the proverb, early morning laughter does not lead to a joyful evening. The 3rd Battalion prepares to attack. Behind veils of fog lurks the unknown. The stormy night of Węgierska Górka, our true baptism of fire, a sigh on the Barania. Our bombers thunder us forward, up and on them like Blucher. Flatten yourself like a postage stamp. At night we storm a bunker, back to the typewriter. At fortified Węgierska Górka, the 5th of September, 9 a.m. The thunder of cannons rolls through the Sola Valley as we write. Here and there a hole is blown in the fortifications of Węgierska Górka. A bitter struggle has erupted around a remaining concrete bunker that impedes our advance. The enemy has organized his resistance diagonally through the valley. He hopes to break the German attack at Węgierska Górka. Our Munich division has gripped the enemy by the throat. Our pioneer stormtroops push ahead into his flanks, his walls spewing fire and steel from one side of the valley to the other. We return from the Zawodzey heights that we captured today, after the 3rd Battalion of Imperial Regiment 19, during a night battle, through the enemy upon the left side of the valley. The regiment carries forth the tradition of the World War I List Regiment, for which Adolf Hitler had volunteered. The enemy defended himself fiercely. We had Polish elite troops in front of us. Given what we won, our losses were not large. The regiment had vindicated its noble tradition. The old institution, Volunteer Regiment List, lives on. Its men defend no creator new its proud fame. It is the royal weapon. Its renowned title is given with its mission in our manual, Ausbildungsvorschrift für die Infanterie, training manual for the infantry. Infantry is the main weapon. All other weapons support it. With fire and pride, it battles down the enemy. Infantry breaks the last resistance. Infantry attacks shatter enemy defences. Infantry carries the principal burden of battle and makes the greatest sacrifices. For this reason, it is accorded the lion's share of fame. The strength of infantry lies in aggressive spirit and confidence in its own power. Its will masters its battles, forward and onto the enemy. Our division, our regiment, has remained true to this infantry coat of arms inscription, in hard hand-to-hand combat. Yesterday morning, our troops moved into position on the highway, Koniakow Krzywa Tisiek. We passed the valley decline at Zare in battle order. Many of us undergo a genuine baptism of fire. The ceremony takes our breath away, and we are not ashamed. It is a unique experience, as when we stood yesterday in a shower of steel without knowing. We advance toward the village of Zare in order to capture the heights of Mount Barania. Heavy infantry fire greets us. Damn. We think, our artillery better start shooting soon, or the enemy will fix us good. A troop of our mounted infantry gallops past us, screaming clearly that Barania will soon not be a friendly spot. Take cover, enemy artillery shoots. The morning fog clears. Barania lies before us. Happily we advance. The Poles have blasted the bridge at Krzywa. We wade through the brook and position ourselves in the burning town, ready to capture the mountain. Our heavy weapons entrench on Barania. The enemy withdraws. We stand on the heights of Barania and observe the enemy bunker locations below. It's noon. The field kitchen brings us something warm, no doubt a pig they caught. Our food hits the spot. An enemy observer flies over us. Boldly, one must admit, he soars low over our marching columns, firing his machine gun. Our soldiers joke about him. He hits only a freshly slaughtered pig that is carried to a field kitchen. He climbs steeply. Our defensive firing makes him uncomfortable. The midday sun burns hot on Barania. Some beer would be wonderful, sighs a Bavarian, wiping pig fat from his mouth. Brook water from the mountains is a poor substitute. The Polish company retreats, reports a rifleman. He has descended from the mountain. Battalion Commander Major von R. responds breathlessly, "Pepper them good and proper with the machine gun." But the Poles are out of range. A dark rumbling trembles through the air. It must be the sound of bombers, but they cannot be seen in the flickering, hazy midday light. Grinning with pride, our infantry greets their invisible aerial brothers. At 4:15 p.m., as we prepare to attack, our planes return in dense formation. After the air sword has struck, the earthbound troops must speak their steely words. In lightly structured battle formation, the company advances. We are not nervous. Our training has made us confident. "Now we'll go up and at them like Blucher, won't we, soldiers?" says the commander cheerfully. We're about to engage in close combat. We experience a calm that arises when a man stands before the dark threshold, death. But there are lusty birds who twitter unaffectedly. God praise them. We must laugh in spite of everything. We have reached our point of attack, Saddle Height Goluski, point 428. The enemy has seen us. He assails us with indirect machine gun fire that passes over us. The bullets chirp as they whiz close over our heads. Zish, tsish, tsish, like the cracking of a whip next to our ears. The first wounded are brought to the rear. From minute to minute we sink deeper into the ploughed furrows. We learn to use the terrain, as we were taught. We put into practice for the first time our basic training. It was literally drilled into us in February in Rathenau, on the hard, frozen military training ground of the Mark Brandenburg Meadow. Flatten yourself like a postage stamp. The hail of bullets thickens. 4:50 p.m. Preparatory firing of our batteries begins. For 10 minutes our steel fists drum the bunker walls, holding down the enemy. But machine gun fire continues, accompanied by shells. Gas, gas. The men call out. The sharp warnings of the gas sergeant at Rathenau are ringing in our ears. We young hares may soon be in need of the warnings. The worst profanities in the Bavarian vocabulary are loudly audible, another form of heavy artillery. The corporal lying next to us shouts to the devil. He has stuck a cigarette in his face in the excitement of the moment. He makes his Blue Cross gas himself. Himmel, Herrgott, Sacrament, he curses. You don't want to let me enjoy a smoke, he adds, pulling on his gas mask. We lie in the furrows for a few moments, then attack. The clock hands creep toward 5 p.m. Our artillery swings to the right side of the valley. An awful roll of thunder fills the valley depths. After the frightful bombardment, like a cry of liberation, comes the instantaneous command. Up, march forward, to the enemy. We storm upward and upward again. We don't need to think. Will the bullets hit me or miss? The moment has gripped us. We don't know what will happen. It is as though we tumble with joy. Fear of death abates and is laughable. We see a lost munition canister and snap it up. We could need it. Hurrah! Hurrah! Forward to the enemy. Our push upward has become a living thing. We laugh within our hearts. Our machine guns provide cover for our fierce attack. Our heavy cannons fire down on the bunkers. The thunder of the guns fills the solar valley to its rim. Clouds of smoke swell overhead. The forest provides good cover for the enemy. Here and there a machine gun rattles, forcing us to take cover. Again and again the German infantry jumps up, marches, takes the enemy by storm. We capture another height. For a moment the view astounds us. Blue twilight has descended on the solar valley, so soft and elegant, as though ignorant of the death and destruction below. The twilight battles the red glow of innumerable gun barrels, eerily illuminated by the azure hour. Tracer shells race in thick, endless streams toward the concrete bunkers. The tracers spin an arrow like web of threads into a glowing green net of devastation over Węgierska Górka. 1,000 fire-spitting steel pipes become a sinister organ, blaring out an unsettling fugue of war. A flamethrower deals the bunker, shooting at our flank a body blow. With shockingly wild beauty, a mountain village becomes a torch. We cautiously approach. The red glow makes us an easy target for Polish sharpshooters above. Dark blue night has fallen. In its midst, spooky spurting flames occasionally flare. Everything in front of us is notably quiet. We stumble in formation along a burbling brook. The smouldering town shows us our way. We have the situation in hand. We continue our work on the forested heights. It's unlikely the enemy will spot us in the dark woods that have swallowed us. Up over the embankment. We whisper to each other more frequently. Bang, tack, tack, tack. The earth close in front of us spurts upward. Lightning like green-yellow fire streams from machine gun barrels. Quickly we jump into ditches to take cover. None, thank God, none of us was killed. Incredible luck, says the commander, but the Poles have let us get 50 paces closer in order to mow us down. A half hour has probably gone by, perhaps more, since the failed flank attack made by the bunker crew. Bottled up, surrounded, fallen into a trap. Our blood hammers in our temples. 2 wounded men on the meadow cry for help. A tough voice, the company chief, Captain W., breaks into our breathless concentration. The voice pulls us along, pulls us upward. Storm, storm. Hurrah! 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 We hear over a thicket. A hard bang lands dully on our ears. A hand grenade has ripped an opening in the barbed wire. We must get through it. Hurrah! Rah, rah! An echo resounds through the black forest. We climb upward haltingly to the fortress. Bah! The foxes have left the building. We lie in the forest, pressed into the moss, because over us in the treetops bullets are whizzing. Who knows how long we must lie here? It becomes brighter and brighter, as though the moon is rising. We hear the 11 companies storming across the empty meadow that the enemy has shot up. Our boys are unaware. Wounded, they cry out. The Poles fire at our stormtroops. We don't hold back. Up and at 'em. Our bitterness that our comrades must bleed drives us forward. We're coming. Just wait, you Polacks. We break a path through the branches. We shoot into the bedeviled wood. We rush out of the forest. We'll find the enemy. They're running away once more. The shooting holes and the trenches are empty, but they've left their packs behind, filled with zwieback, preserves, schnapps, and a blanket, which we need. We bundle a wounded man for transport to the rear. Further, over the meadow, back to the forest. The enemy has hurriedly fled the entire heights. Hurrah! The men sink dead tired onto stone or moss. Before leaden sleep presses down our eyelids, we see the battalion commander, Company Chief Captain W., extend his hands toward the forest and the Zawodzey heights. Like two soldiers, the hands grasp and shake each other. No one utters a word. In the faint moonlight, it's difficult to see anything. The pressing of two hands says everything that soldiers could say, and must say, to one another on the battlefield. Sleep is breathless, often interrupted. The thicket clicks and clacks. It sounds like a rifle being loaded. Is someone about to sneak up on us? Herr Oberleutnant, listen, the Poles are coming. The Oberleutnant hears nothing. Exhaustion clamps him like iron to the ground. Grey morning creeps toward us stealthily. We hear gunshots there, over there. We sleep for 10 or 15 minutes more. Frost gnaws at our legs. We shake with chills. We awaken with a start. The bright light bangs our heads. We are wide awake. The Poles are counterattacking. Our ears have not deceived us. The Poles are throwing at us everything they've got. We're at their flanks and their backs. The battalion does not allow itself to be overpowered. We must return to the typewriter. Our singular task begins. Reporting. You can't go alone. The terrain has not been cleared. Take a man from the munitions supply company with you. Regard yourself always as our comrade, says the commander with a firm handshake. Get back safely. A day ago we were strangers. One night when we stood between life and death has brought us together. We reported that we had done our duty. Our body feels the echo, the sacred song of German infantry. This day of war and night of combat at Węgierska Górka sang, or twittered, if you will, with 100,000 bullets. We'll never capture it is false. The end of Węgierska Górka. Only a few survivors in the blasted concrete bunkers. 18-headed monster in the Solar Valley. The enemy panics. Milovka, the 3rd of September 1939. Situation: the enemy flees after our infantry division breakthrough at Węgierska Górka. Task: our motorized forward division, Major R, has thrown itself at the enemy's heels, accelerating the Polish retreat. So it looks at this time. Our artillery has worked over the last fortifications at Węgierska Górka. Together with our pioneers and infantry, we have cleared out the bunkers. The Poles trusted blindly, apparently, the impregnability of their fortified line on both sides of the Solar Valley. They had probably counted on artillery bombardment, which inflicted deep wounds in the cement walls. They had not reckoned with the deadly contempt of our stormtroops, the heroic forward impetus of our pioneers and infantry, who assaulted all 18 concrete blocks. Our men ignored the barrages of defensive firing. They got close enough to the gorges of the steel heaps. They dared the last leap between life and death as they overran the shattered cement structures. They pressed out the trapped fortress defenders inside. We battled at Węgierska Górka the entire night. The enemy didn't make things easy for us. Poles remained in the bunkers. We had to root most of them out. A few survivors left their blown-up concrete castles, smoke blackened, lips pressed together, faces pained. 2 bunkers were standing and could make our advance through the Solar Valley more difficult. Shock troops and artillery arrived to finish them off, dropping heavy shells and concrete rubble on the last thick Polish skulls. In the meantime, Major K's motorized advance division made ready to pursue the retreating enemy. Soon stillness reigned. We knew that the road to the plains of Galicia was open. Węgierska Górka had a myth of invincibility. We shattered it. In 20 hours we broke the 18 balled concrete fists with which the Solar Valley had tried to frighten us. The mighty defensive walls of the fortress lay in pieces, reaching from one side of the valley to the other, as though destroyed by the weight of a catastrophic flood. Yesterday, the 18-headed monster stared malignantly at us as we stood on the Barania. We reckoned that we would need a few days to conquer it. We are not amazed that the grey ghost panic claws at the necks of the fleeing enemy. Passing by flickering, flaming ruins, fear pursues the Poles. The road on which we advance covered with crooked horseshoe nails. Their highnesses in Jeleznia conspire against us. Sucha anticipates the end of the world. Jews give away their possessions. Outside Sucha, the 4th of September, 5 p.m. At 1 a.m., the pursuit division of Major R marches towards Saybush with his reconnaissance detachment, a communications group, a mounted squadron, a bicycle detachment, an armoured car, a motorised heavy battery. These elements comprise a pursuit cavalcade, an assemblage of exceptional firepower and speed, filled with the offensive spirit of cavaliers. Shattered bunkers and protective fences are consumed with flickering flames as we pass through the Solar Valley at 1:30 a.m. Flaming ruins along our route are dark, bitter remnants of the recent battle. Smoke from the flames spreads over the valley, from which a symphony of horror had sounded. Now it is silent, silent as death. The humming of motors is the only sound that breaks the early morning quiet. The villages are deserted. In Saybush we run into a few inhabitants. We make a lengthy pause. Someone whispers that the bridge in front of us has been blown. We must make a wide detour. While we wait, we draw nervous circles in the dust. In Saybush, we and our tyres are greeted with street dreck, crooked horseshoe nails. Look, hundreds of them are lying around, thousands. Is this how the Poles want to win the war? No, they'll accomplish nothing with such bent things. Crooked nails notwithstanding, we advance in a wide arc around Saybush. The enemy is absent. The horrors of Węgierska Górka chased him off. Our reconnaissance troops can scarcely comprehend the level of Polish panic, an exciting experience in an unknown region which can be full of surprises. Here and there along the highway, defensive installations are indicated with red ink on our maps. Have they been abandoned? Will withering fire from the forest edge suddenly pelt our flank? A no-man's land lies in front of us, perhaps. We have not taken it, and our opponent has withdrawn. Shyly, lady farmers from the next valley stand along the road with their cattle. If they could understand German, we would like to allay the anxiety that causes them to flee with their poor, bundled possessions. We want to tell them, once we have arrived, you need fear war no longer. No doubt the women have this feeling. Some peasant men report to us that they want the Germans to traverse their community in an orderly manner. They greet us cordially. One raises his hat, for a moment setting his fear aside. Another salutes us with raised hand. In Sopotnia and its surroundings we see almost no men, only women and a pulsing mass of children. How rich in children is this one-of-a-kind Galicia that lives in unimaginable poverty? A kilometre-long dust snake encases our cavalcade like stage fog. The streets are noisy. What a load our trucks have. Our spirited troops are silent. However, if despite the unfavourable road conditions we must beat a hasty retreat, wouldn't that also represent an astounding victory for our technical materials? Where is the enemy? He must have bolted in wild flight. We confirm our suspicions by talking with Polish girls. Soldati, pritch, away. Away, they blurt out with lively gestures. Our motorised advance division roars through Jeleznia. We pass the village church, where 50 colourfully dressed town virgins cower, as though in front of the big bad wolf, little lambs shaking fearfully in the presence of the high and mighty. With a horrified conspiratorial glance, one moves her hand in greeting, while another grasps a baptismal bowl with which German iniquity can be washed away. Otherwise, heaven forfend, we might avail ourselves of the pious local girls, for whom we have not the slightest feeling or interest. A primitively comic picture. We shake with laughter kilometres further on. On the mountain top sits a fortress, which the Poles also abandoned. The incomplete fortified positions become more numerous on both sides of the highway on which we advance. Young and old meet us more often with their right fist raised, the German greeting. But in Kosarava we meet 3 old ladies despondently wringing their hands, causing us to break into laughter. Probably they were lied to, since they think we are child murderers, rapists, thieves. They have hidden their possessions in the woods. The Polish soldiers told them to, they say. Apparently everything here is done according to Polish standards. We arrive outside of Susha at noon and receive bad news. The beer that we want is no longer to be had. Everything edible and drinkable was consumed yesterday. The townsfolk must have enjoyed themselves. Before they fled in an orderly exodus, the Jews gave away their food, gave it away. Prudent people were truly expecting the end of the world, illuminated by golden Jewish hearts. After consuming their bounty, inebriated Polish soldiers did not take the trouble to carry off rolls of barbed wire. The wire left behind lay in raw heaps in front of their unfinished bunkers at Porozy. They did have the stamina to blow bridges. The destroyed bridges outside Susha put the brakes on our pursuit. Our pioneers used bolts to reattach the hanging beams that had been blasted. Our infantry crossed along with light trucks. Soon our batteries were across. We ardently hope the Poles will honour us with an encounter. With a pursuit group, evening journey in enemy territory. 4 of our reconnaissance troops do not return. Vinegar in our Budzo temporary quarters. The West Beskids illuminated by moonlight. Sulkowis, the 5th of September, 1 p.m. Our pursuit group was underway until 1 a.m. In Budzo we were supposed to bed down for the night, northeast of Susha. For hours our motorized column remained standing in the pitch-dark night on account of blown bridges. We had to find a new route. Finally, we started to move until a difficult river crossing stopped us. This is getting on our nerves. In the meantime, the moon has risen, illuminating fantastic landscape scenes. After a powerful surge, our motor vehicles plunge into the river, praising God at low water. Many drivers remain with their vehicles, stuck in the mud. We wait and wait. Our eyelids close as though they were made of lead. We hear shots nearby that awaken us. Mounted reconnaissance troops head out into the fearful night in enemy territory bewitched by the moon. Every loud clomp can be deadly fire from the underbrush, stroked by the softly rushing night wind. Destruction lurks in the blue-green midnight. Should we thank or curse the moon for lighting our way? We don't know. We hear a loud bang, followed by the dull sound of far-off explosions. 4 horsemen, reconnaissance troops, have not returned, shout some of our men. Poor fellows, our delays did them in. Cursed, bright, horrible night. We line up to cross the river, holding our breath. We shoot from the middle. Clouds of steam rise. Water has risen above the hot cylinders. Move. Push. Water seeps into our boots. We enjoy the measured pleasures of a helpful, war-induced footbath. We traipse onward for kilometres. If we were only across, in the deep highway furrows with our motorcycles, engines roaring. Instead, we must ford again. Finally, we are off to Budzo in the apparently deserted, silent, moon-illuminated West Beskid mountain terrain, moving toward safety. We stand before our temporary quarters in Budzo. The single house looks like an inn. We take the place by storm. The room is illuminated. An unshaven local is straightening up. "Pivo, pivo!" we shout cheerfully. He answers in broken German. The Poles drank up everything a few hours ago. Vodka and pivo. "Man, you're lying. You have heaps of bottles in your cellar. Go get them. Corks out. Set up our drinks." Horrible. It's pure vinegar. Oset, the stuff is called in Polish. It's still burning our gorges. We arrest the suspicious inn personnel. Despite the vinegar, our feet can sleep for 3 hours. We emerge into the morning grey. We march into the countryside to pursue the enemy, the devils. At Sulkovic, we turn right in the direction of Myslenice, a miserable mountain path. At Jasienica, our point 440, we stop. A curtain of fog obscures Myslenice. Our motorized artillery moves into firing position. They shoot all around, up to the heights, down to Myslenice. The strategic retreat of the Poles ripped apart like sheep leather. Reluctant volunteer battles at Rudnik, judged by the laws of war. Gruesome lies about Bethlehem like child murderers. Sulkovic, the 5th of September, 7 p.m. The reluctance of Polish forces to engage our troops shows us that we can today reach our goal. Myślenice. Since our destruction of the fortifications at Węgierska Górka, the enemy has recoiled from further battle. Tomorrow we will reach the heights of the fortress belt of Krakow. Despite the difficult Galician highway impediments, our infantry has advanced more than 40 kilometers, corresponding to the distance from Sucha Myślenice. Our pursuit of the enemy with mobile forces is in full swing. The enemy will find it difficult to conduct an orderly retreat, even more so since our infantry presents increasing danger to his flanks. Major General D was correct when he remarked yesterday, "The Poles will rip apart like sheep leather." The Polish High Command must make an effort to explain a sudden mass retreat of their troops. The population will be told that the retreat was part of the plan and has a high strategic purpose. Can anyone imagine the trepidation of Russia or Hungary to enter the war against Germany on the side of Poland? The Polish lies will strengthen their subversive war tactics that might impair our soldiers. In the past few days, we have heard of the shooting of our reconnaissance troops from behind by men dressed in civilian clothes. Our advancing troops at Barnosiowka were sneakily attacked with hand grenades and rifle fire from the houses, and we suffered losses. The people we arrested identified themselves collectively with documents as construction workers for the fortifications at Węgierska Górka. Nobody that we captured lived in the area. Every member of the Polish army should have Polish military boots. These men didn't. We concluded that the Poles had used a force, disguised as civilians, in the areas they had abandoned. In an underhanded manner, they were trying to accomplish what they could not by honest military means. It goes without saying that Polish civilian snipers, such as those in village Rudnik 21, will be tried before a military tribunal. Our outlook is favourable. The peasant population is loyal, even friendly toward us. We can often converse understandably in German with the oldest residents of a district, a result of Austrian cultural influence before World War I. Our German troops are a model of discipline, in marked contrast to the Bethlehem-type child murderers and the like that the Polish regime has made us out to be. The Poles trust us increasingly, and are losing the fear that their leaders had whipped up in them. The end of Węgierska Górka. A town shot on fire. Infantry clears out the enemy, and we drive the snipers from their cowardly redoubt. At the heels of the fleeing enemy perfidious city Myślenice, deadly salvos behind the welcoming trellis. Animal-loving cannibals. The Germans' first good deed, Myślenice, the 6th of September, 1 p.m. Our pursuit of the enemy halts in the region Myślenice-Gdał-Bochnia. We keep chasing the foe retreating eastward. Since early morning, tank troops have been pushing forward. Only the blown bridges slow them down. Our pursuit troops are at the enemy's heels. They follow our gigantic infantry marching column, whose goal for the day is Zreczyńce, a suburb of Gdał. Fierce fighting, an arresting image is going on around Myślenice, a town of 4,000 inhabitants. The marketplace is filled with our armoured vehicles and cavalry horses, at the moment waiting to join our huge infantry column. Our troops are happy and confident. They had hardly observed the arduous breakthrough at the Beskids, but they saw the opening of the road across the plains. The obstacles are minimal due to the vaunted self-confidence of our troops and our prudent, energetic leaders. Our advancing columns maintain their pace. They will effortlessly reach our day goal, 25 kilometers distant. Myślenice is a perfidious city overall. Yesterday morning, one of our armoured reconnaissance vehicles arrived. An apparently enthusiastic crowd waved greetings. Suddenly the picture changed. Gunshots rang out from all sides. The welcoming crowd disappeared. A German officer was shot dead when he good-naturedly got out of his armoured car, victimised by a shabby kind of genuine Polish war guile. The local population had rushed into the woods en masse, poisoned by Polish horror stories. Now they return to their towns and villages. A few dare to emerge. They tell the others that there is no truth at all to what Polish soldiers have told them. From many people we hear that Polish troops on the run have engendered fear in the peasants. The Germans murdered children and ate them. The notorious hacked-off hand is part and parcel of these awful tales. We wish that the scriveners for the Polish newspapers trying to influence world opinion with their outrageous lies, could see us. Our soldiers adopt dogs their escaping owners have abandoned. Numerous half-starved mutts have become company dogs riding in our jeeps. With his love of animals, the man and soldier displays his inner self. In this provincial town, we meet examples of Southeast German national influence. Notable buildings were built in the Imperial Austrian or Sudeten style. With every step, we are more impressed by the pioneering cultural work of the 12 million Germans in the former Austrian monarchy. But if we ignore these details, we would see a primitive country that clings to its wooden ploughs. Germanic influence in the region was an ordering, creative principle. As the motors of our pursuit columns roar through the countryside, we have performed a magnanimous deed for the inhabitants. We have freed them from the Jews, almost all of whom have run away. When we look around the marketplace, we see one business sign after another with a Jewish name: Jakob Blumenstock, Markus Bitterfeld, Samuel Wasserfall, Sarah Hirschtal, and so forth. A prolific blooming of East Polish Jewish names. The Polish Volk, we learn from talking with the locals, hate the Jews who exploit them. But the Poles were defenseless against them. Perhaps anti-Semitism fuels the townsfolk's lust to plunder Jewish businesses, which began before our military police arrived in Myslenice. Our army's supreme commander, Colonel General von Brauchitsch, has proclaimed our aims to the Poles. Peace and order will soon prevail. Life will return to normal. Our troops promise a better future for Europe as they march victoriously across Poland. 24 hours after occupation, letter from Krakow. A wonder on the Weichsel. But we must miss it. Acquaintance with old German monuments. In the Kamiers ghetto. My mother is German. Krakow, the 7th of September, 3 p.m. You can't imagine how our limbs trembled yesterday as the news hit our columns. Krakow is taken. Our Bavarian infantry division had contributed significantly. We rapidly pushed through Węgierska Górka and doggedly pursued the enemy in a dangerous threat to his flank. Since 8 a.m., we had marched in long columns from Myslenice to Tarnow. Now it's 4 p.m., Krakow taken. The town lies 25 kilometers north of our line of march. The war reporter turns to his motorcycle, the valiant Puch 500. It has survived the test of fire on smashed mountain roads and nighttime river crossings. As night breaks, we converse briefly by phone with Headquarters Caesar. Come immediately to Krakow. We are commanded. Quickly we fill the tank. We don't want to end up stuck on the open street in the dark of night. We would never see Krakow. Partisans are firing their rifles from the bushes. With our good old Steyr army pistol, we race along the fully cleared highway, Myslenica Glogotzow Krakow. After we travel 6 kilometers, a blinking red light makes us put on the brakes. Someone screams in the darkness. Stop! The bridge in front has been blown. Turn around quickly and slow down, otherwise you might come to grief. We were filled with intense longing to see the conquered city. Being forced to turn back is a bitter pill to swallow. This morning we said our final goodbyes to 4 dead from our Munich division, 3 cavalrymen and a lance corporal. They rest by the church in Rudnik, victims of miserable partisans. We set out on the detour through Birtowice. Our pioneers have patched up the blown bridges. They never fail us. On both sides of the highway lie shot-up vehicles, tanks, horse cadavers belonging to Polish troops taken by surprise. One Austrian division had a heated battle here. Our cycle rolls along in the splendid morning. We meet refugees returning to Krakow. Their faces are relaxed. They're going home, Nadomu. The people who stayed made a better choice than the refugees. We must put on our brakes again and again. The streets have been mined. One of our personnel carriers was blown up. During a night trip it pitched upside down in a mine crater. Ever thicker become the settlements that announce the capital city of West Galicia. Our troops halt underway for a well-earned rest. From Opatkowice we get our first glimpse of Krakow. The castle we see must be the Wawel. What luck! The magnificent ancient city that surprises the visitor at every step with monuments of old German culture did not suffer a scratch from cannon fire. The Polish ring of fortresses surrounding Krakow was silent. Why? Once more, like the 1920 battle with Budziany, did a miracle occur on the Weichsel. Certainly a different outcome than what Rids Smigli dreamt of. Through ripped-up streets we drive into the lively city. Life has caught its breath after days of dread. Individual shops are open. Housewives are buying essentials. We pass the Cloth Hall, the famous Gothic building in the centre city, a powerful witness to the overwhelmingly Germanic past of the once blossoming Hanseatic town. Throngs of screaming humanity pass the adjacent market stalls. Many stands have voluntarily closed. Their owners are Jews who fled. Stand, for example, once the property of Rosalia Zimmerspitz, has its rolling doors shut tight. The Aryan dairy product dealer Polona hopes for more business as a result. Firma Katolika has stood over her stand for a few months, a sign that the Aryan population of Krakow are actively defending themselves against Jewish exploitation. Catholic firm means the same here as Christian business does to the Viennese, not religious anti-Semitism, although the little picture of Maria of Częstochow hanging over the milk store might lead people to believe so. A strong, decisive racial anti-Semitism is being expressed. The Poles hate the Jews, even when their prices are lower than the Firma Katolika. But the Warsaw government had forbidden the people to act out their sentiments. In Lemberg, they say, anti-Semitic feelings are more radical. We speak to the ladies surrounding our translator, who is fluent in Krakow Polish and German. How can an ordinary German soldier understand us? Says their laughter. A thick wall of people surrounds us. Everybody wants to talk to the German soldiers. Do they want to demonstrate their trust? Men and women ask us about this and that. Will famine arrive? We point to our own cheeks, which don't indicate that we're starving. The Krakow folks are convinced. We have consigned more horror stories from the Krakow Isustrovan Kurja to the ash heap. We had enough products in the stores, housewives tell us, but no money to buy anything. Will things be different? Relax. Your men will have jobs in our protectorate. Will I get my next pension check? Will my soldier son at Tarnow come home? Asks a trembling old man. We make a quick trip to the ghetto, located in a city quarter, Kazimierz. It looks like the Middle East. A cold shudder shakes our spine. We immediately receive the impression of a foreign world, like Leopoldstadt in Vienna. A ghostly procession of evil beings, Shylocks in their greasy caftans, their eyes darkly greedy. In this hour their greed is supplanted by intensely flickering fear. Sometimes a fox-red rabbinical beard passes, along with many immigrant heads. From the east the people have come west. Vienna had an influx of the same types. Where will this race, called the chosen people, move next? What do you say about the sign Firma Katolika? We ask an immigrant from Frankfurt. They learned that from the Germans, he responds poisonously in Yiddish. We escape the stifling air of Kazimierz, where the wise men of Zion make modest pronouncements about their future. We flee to the old royal castle Wawel. Here another Poland lives, embodied in the figure of the great marshal whose country we want to get to know. From the old defensive walls we have a stunning view of the countryside bathed in the early autumn sun. 3 hills are on the horizon, like Aztec grave markers, truncated pyramids, monuments reminding the Polish people of their magnificence. The Kopiec Wandy, the Wanda Hill, the Kopiec Pilsudskiego, and the Kopiec Kosciuszko. A blonde Polish girl, we presume, eagerly recounted the history of the hills. She spoke melodically, like a flute, in the manner Slavs speak broken German. How do you come to speak German so well? My mum is German, she responded slowly. Father is Ukrainian. Our encounter with Olga R. sticks in our mind. Here we speak of the tragic German flow of blood into the world over centuries. Creatively working, it seeps into foreign peoples. How much German energy is strewn on wandering paths in the east and southeast. Seen from outside, it has ebbed, dissolved, though we hope not forever. Foreign names in countless cases cover our own flesh and blood, but the power of events wakes the dormant German everywhere. Would you like to come to Germany someday, Pani Olga? Tak, oh yes, she says with a deep, deep sigh. Change position, again and again, change position. A stormy upper atom behind us, more forest battles. In the ancestral room of Prince Santgors we plan tomorrow's attack, God-forsaken Tarnow. General staff map between Teresian barracks, the Count's wife and our mental consolation. Tarnow, the 8th of September, 10 p.m. Pursuit has become a marathon dash. Our troops are short of breath before storming another battle line that we expect the enemy to make his main front, the River San. "Get me my combat boots from the trunk," a staff officer of the Army Corps telephoned yesterday. "My soles have holes." The order is quickly carried out. We don't have time to reshoe the horses. Their soles are worn out too. A man holds up, but not the soles of his shoes. We have no time to wash our shirts and wear the last one with resignation. Maybe we can do some laundry at Przemysl or Lemberg or Tarnopol. The enemy troops can hardly stop either, given the tempo of their fabulous tactical retreat. From what we can see, it is a desperate flight. Groups are blown to pieces that yesterday and today were unified battalions. They're tired of war, sick of running. Captain D had to undertake a mission yesterday and was forced to detour through an area hardly cleared. A rifleman accompanied him in his car. Underway, they met a second soldier looking for his unit in Tarnow. With this weak escort, they captured 12 Polish soldiers, one energetic Stoj. Push was sufficient to force the Poles to lay down their arms. 3 of our men pulled out of the fray, bound for Tarnow. They brought with them 12 prisoners and 1 fully loaded Polish ammunition truck. Change position. Again and again, change position. That is the watchword during this week of stormy up and atom. It's not easy for the staffs. They have no time for quietly formulating orders or studying our position. Our reconnaissance troops accomplish unimaginably quick, exacting work laying cables that connect the army divisions, nerve strands transmitting the will to attack. Last night, the staff of Caesar was at Bielsaiki. Late in the evening, they formulated a division order. At 8:30 a.m., the staff cars were rolling to Tarnow. The whole complicated apparatus was set in motion with the turn of a hand. The columns achieved their daily march goal, 15 to 20 kilometers, far past Tarnow. We heard there was a battle today with Polish troops in the rear that were stationed in the forests north of the highway, Bochnia Tarnow. We rubbed them out. We killed 100 and our losses were slight. We detour around the blown bridges in a wide arc. Our pioneers have reinforced the bridge over the Dunajec and have thrown up a new one. Yesterday afternoon, our tanks crossed the Dunajec. It's scarcely credible what our vehicles accomplish amidst these difficulties. We think, for example, of the obstacles our heavy gasoline trucks encounter to get fuel to our units in a timely manner. If a tanker is delayed, the advance of an entire division can be imperiled. Tarnow lies before us. This town has a reputation. You must be lucky to encounter an Aryan. The 6,000 inhabitants give a Sunday impression on account of the closed stores. Today is Saturday, the Sabbath. Men in caftans and side curls scurry through the dirty streets. They scurry, they do not really walk.